Hello there and welcome to the Secrets of Organ Playing podcast. I'm your host, Vidas Pinkevičius. Welcome to Secrets of Organ Playing podcast number 117. Today's guest is Nigel Williams, who is a New Zealand composer of choral and organ music. During his student days, he was a chorister at the Holy Trinity Cathedral in Auckland. In his 11 years in the choir, Nigel developed an interest in composing organ and choral music. After graduating from the University of Auckland with a master's degree in composition, he began a career as a music teacher. Nigel was at the forefront of music education in New Zealand for almost 30 years, having taught variously at Westlake Girls High School, St. Paul's Collegiate School, Scots College, and Marsden School for Girls. He retired recently from the position of Director of Music at Mill Hill School in London, where he also played the fine Mill Hill School Mander organ. Currently, Nigel is working on 3 commissions, 2 large choral works, and 1 piece of chamber music. In addition to this, he works part-time as Director of Vocal Studies at St. Paul's Collegiate School. Nigel have always maintained an active life as a musician and composer in the community. In Hamilton, New Zealand, he established a regional orchestra and jazz band festival for schools. Taking advantage of St. Paul's Collegiate new Le Tourneau organ, he established an international organ festival to further promote the playing of the organ in New Zealand. He was director of music at Hamilton's St. Peter's Cathedral for several years and established choral scholarships to ensure equality of choral singing at the cathedral and establish an enduring link with Hamilton's Waikato University's music department. In this conversation, we talk about Nigel's organ compositions, how he first fell in love with the organ, with creating for this instrument, and also about his favorite techniques such as 12-tone serial music, modal music, and also his undying love for the polyphony. Let's go to the show. Thank you so much, Nigel, for joining this conversation. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. By the way, Nigel, where are you from?
I'm from Wellington in New Zealand. Wellington is the capital city. Wellington, capital city of New Zealand.
All right. Let's see how far we are from Vilnius.
Probably 20,000 kilometers, I would think.
I would say from Vilnius to, sort of, very, very far away. We are 7 hours apart, right?
Oh, 7 hours. That's all right. Yes.
I think so. Mm-hmm. Excellent. And now we're connecting basically across the globe. And actually, New Zealand is directly on the opposite side of the globe than Lithuania. If you went through the Earth's core directly, that's the closest route. So thank you so much for joining in this conversation. We will be talking about your organ compositions. But before we start, I want to welcome you. You're very generous. Thank you so much. Excellent. Nigel, do you remember the time when you first fell in love with the music, creating for the music? Maybe you got in touch with the organ, somebody introduced you to the organ. Could you share the story from your early days with us?
Yes. I was a teenage boy. I was 14 years old, and I had an inspirational teacher of music at my school, who was a gifted organist and who gained a bursary to study at The Hague, postgraduate organ study, and did very well there. And he set me on the path to finding out about the organ and learning more about this wonderful instrument. You must realise that in my country, New Zealand, we're a young country, and we're only 3 or 4 generations old. So the world of organ music is not that advanced, shall we say? But nonetheless, we do have some fine organs and some very fine organ players. But it was back in the 1960s with this one teacher that I fell in love with the organ and wanted to find out more about it and learn about it.
Fantastic. So those early encounters stay with you for a long time. Can you share with us, Nigel, what specifically interested you in organ? How it captivated your attention from the early beginnings?
I think because the organ is the instrument of the church, and I am very much interested in writing music for the church, it was natural for me to write music for the organ as well. The organ, when you write for choirs, you are aware that each section of the choir wants to sing a melody, and choral music is often polyphonic. The organ is a polyphonic instrument, and it's natural for me to take my polyphonic instincts to the organ. And so when I write for the organ, I tend to write in a linear way.
Yes, polyphonic concept. Several melodies are joining together, create a nice harmony, right? And this horizontal thinking fascinated you from the very beginning, as opposed to just chords.
Exactly. The juxtaposition, the layering of melody is appealing to me. The older I get, and you can look at me, and I'm getting older, the more I realise that this is the sort of music I want to be writing.
Yes. If we take piano, for example, yes, we could play polyphony quite well, but since on the organ we have an extra hand with pedals, right, extra stave, we can be more independent with these melodies, and even we can produce different sounds on different manuals, different colors. Then each melody is more pronounced and independent. So yes, it's more suited for polyphonic music as the tradition goes for centuries, and I'm glad you started creating this kind of music. It's not very common these days to create polyphonic organ music, is it?
No, it's not. And New Zealand, it's less common again, I guess. But I mean, when I look at the music that I've written, and I tend to work with chorale melodies that are in the public domain, I just can't help myself. I just love the love of working out how I can layer the melody and work with it through the various divisions of the organ. I guess my guiding principle all the way through. Even when writing 12-tone music, I think at the end of the day, it's about melody. You know, I mean, when I go to a concert, no matter what the concert is, I want to come out at the end of the night or the end of the concert thinking, I've got a tune on my head, I've got a number on my head that I'm going to remember, and I'm mindful of that when I write music, because I want the listener.
Yes, you see, even as you mentioned, 12-tone or dodecaphonic music can be perceived polyphonically. Yes, if we create a series for 12 notes, right, or less notes, 5, 6, 7, or 9 notes, depending on your choice, then yes, this series becomes your melody. right? And you're not, again, not thinking vertically, but horizontally.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
so Nigel, what happened later after your teenage years? When did you decide to pursue this creative endeavor, this music, this composition professionally?
It's followed me all through my life, Vidas. It's I found myself teaching at a school in New Zealand that installed an organ by Letourneau, the Canadian firm, Letourneau, the only Letourneau organ in New Zealand, Opus 31, a beautiful mechanical action, 18 ranks. And having this organ compelled me to play the organ more and also to write music for it. And it was, I guess, back in the 1990s that I really thought seriously about creating a body of music for the instrument.
Because of this Letourneau instrument, right? You started creating and professionally. It's good that you encountered mechanical action organ first, right? Because that's the real deal.
That's the real deal. Yes, and especially when you're teaching youngsters. And I have just finished teaching at that school, and I had eight students learning the organ. And in New Zealand, if you go to all the universities in New Zealand, you won't find 8 students playing the organ, which is rather sad. But I had 8 students in this school all playing this fabulous organ.
So were you teaching them to play the organ or compose for the organ or both or something else?
A little bit of both, I guess. There was one student in particular who was very interested in composing, but the rest were interested in playing. And they range from the very beginner to advanced. And mechanical action, I used to say to them that the organ probably teaches them as much playing on a proper instrument and teach them so much about the instrument.
So Nigel, in your experience, did you meet more people who were interested in playing the organ or creating on the organ?
Probably more people who are interested in playing the organ. I've brought a lot of organists into the school. I ran a festival and competitions to try and promote the organ. And I had people like David Clifferington and Eric to play, and the organ probably featured in my time there 40 or 50 recitals on a regular monthly basis of organists from overseas and from within New Zealand who came to play the organ. So the organ itself was well represented in the community by a number of players.
I see. I can agree with you that most of the people, of course, fall in love with the beautiful organ repertoire and music that was created earlier by the masters. And only a few of them dare to start creating, either on paper or really improvising in the moment.
Exactly.
Right? So what can you do to inspire people to create more, Nigel? Can you motivate them through your own experiments?
I hope I have. I hope I've done that with some students that I've taught. There's one in particular who went on from my school to study at the Royal Academy of Music in London, and then went to Westminster Cathedral. But that's all. As a teacher, that's what you hope to do, and I think there are some students that I've certainly inspired over the years.
So, Nigel, what is the most challenging thing for you when you compose, create music today? Do you have some challenges that you have to overcome?
That's a really good question. What I find best is that when I'm asked to write a piece of music, someone gives me clear instruction. For example, when Professor Marilyn Mason at the University of Michigan
Yes.
commissioned me to write for her Marilyn Mason organ library, she offered me, did you get this? 3 words of advice. She said, keep it tight. That's all she said to me. Keep it tight. She stipulated that I must use the public domain chorale melody. So I did. I used an Irish melody. Best advice I could ever be given, because, you know, when you write music, there is a tendency to throw too many notes on the page. The real skill comes in deciding which of those notes you don't want to use.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you are just left with all the notes that you want and no more. But also a clear instruction from whoever is commissioning me, it's the best result. If it's
Mm-hmm.
blank, it's too much. It's a blank canvas. Wow. But if the brief is tight, you know, the instructions are clear,
Mm.
then I think the result is better.
Is it difficult for you to adhere to the rules that Marilyn Mason, for example, asked you to create? What were the rules first, by the way?
She just said, keep it tight. So, and so I interpreted that as literally keeping it tight and making sure that I didn't waffle. You know, when you improvise, you know when you improvise well, and you know when you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And you let your fingers walk over the keys, and you experiment, and you work out, and you know that that's good and that's not, and that was really helpful. I found her instruction very, very helpful, and I was able to create 5, I think, very good, very tight variations on a melody.
What was the melody?
Slain, the Irish melody Slain.
Slang. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a wonderful melody.
Very
Yeah,
famous melody. Mm-hmm.
a very famous melody, and in one of the variations, because the commission was coming from America, and I was thinking polyphonically and of layering melody, I took an American folk hymn, Gifts,
Mm-hmm.
in a trio movement. What could be more organistic than that?
Yes, for uh, for for 2 hands and pedals, right?
Yeah, pedals. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
3 voices.
Yes, 3 voices. Yeah, just a short little trio, but nonetheless, it takes some playing, and yeah. So that was a great commission to get, and she was most appreciative. Amazing, amazing lady.
Mhm. Yes, Marilyn Mason is the legendary figure for the organ. Of course, we all
Exactly.
admire her input.
I've never met her. It was all done by email, and her emails were like a sentence long. I don't think she had long using email. It was just like very, very brief sentences and just all done over the email. It was an amazing experience. But
Hmm. How did she contact you? How did she find you?
well, I had made an arrangement, a similar arrangement, on an American folk hymn called Foundation,
Yeah.
Foundation, and she'd come across it now, and we contacted each other. I might have contacted her, I think, at the beginning, and she said she liked the music, and she wanted that's how it all happened. Yeah, it was as a result of that, in 1998, I composed a cantata for a Baptist church in Kalamazoo.
Yes.
They were installing the 54-stop Latino organ, and they asked me to write this music for them based on this folk hymn foundation, which I did. And many years later, 10 years later or so, I took out from that an organ piece, a separate organ piece. Because the original piece was for organ, choir, trumpet, and congregation, because it was a whole church affair. But later on, I just made an organ piece, and it was from this that she saw my music and asked me to write for the Marilyn Mason Music Live.
So, Nigel, what are you currently working on?
At the moment, I'm writing a lot of choral music. I've got quite a lot of organ music. I've got all my organ music on sheet music plus. I have probably a dozen or so titles, but at this stage I'm writing a lot of choral music.
And do you have your favorite piece over the years? You have created many pieces. How do you have one that sticks out and you would like to
Yes.
let our listeners know about it more?
I do have. Well, I think those two pieces stand out for me. There was a piece I wrote for organ on the Laterno instrument. I wrote for the organ and contralto voice, called Sound Prelude Out of the Deep. And it was performed at the Royal Academy of Music in London by one of my gifted students. It's a fine piece, and it really is. It was a stretch for me to write it. I make no bones about that. It was a real stretch. It uses a bit of sort of 12-tone serial technique that we talked about before, and the organ and voice are equal players in the music. It's not a vocal piece accompanied by organ, but it's very much a piece for organ and voice. That stands out as one of my favourites.
And how did you first started working on this piece? Did you create a series first, 12-tone mode?
I did. I created the series first, and I remember spending a lot of late nights on the Laterno in Hamilton, playing, working there, just to make it. It was a big piece in the creating. It's 8 or 9 minutes long. It's a serious piece of music. There's another fine piece that I wrote, which I love to pieces. And again, it was written at the Laterno, and it's just a quiet little piece called A Dialogue Between the Sister and It's quite tricky, but playable by a good organist, on a 2-manual instrument. In New Zealand, most of our organs are no bigger than 2 manuals. There's not, there's 3-manual and bigger organs, but there aren't that many places you can play a 3-manual organ. So I was writing more to the local market, shall we say?
Excellent. Do you think that people could learn to play it, or is it a very advanced piece?
I think so. I think exactly. I think a good organist could play my advanced music. I've got lots of simple arrangements on sheet music plus, pieces, but I've got half a dozen pieces which require a bit of playing. Yes, they require a bit of playing, but they're definitely playable, and they're all in circulation. They're all being played now. Yeah.
How do your listeners react to serial music, to the 12-tone technique? What do they say after performance?
It's because to me it's just a way of writing. I don't sort of hold it up and say, "Look, I've written 12-tone technique." It's just another It's another tool in the toolbox, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes. They don't know. They don't probably, can't hear the pitches right at the time of performance. They hear only the character of the music, the mood,
the mood and the character of the music. That's what they hear. Yes. So it's my only experience of writing that way for the organ. My one and only at the stage. But I think if I was to write another big piece of organ music, I'd be looking for someone to give me direction, telling me what they wanted. I think because to me that's important. I need to have that clarity of understanding.
Yes, just like Marilyn Mason said to you what she wanted.
Yeah, exactly. She wanted public domain melody and keep it tight, and she wanted variations, and that's what I gave her.
And variations is a very nice form. You can do a lot of colorful things, explore the possibilities rhythmically, melodically, harmonically, right?
Yeah. And exactly.
If the melody is famous, then people can recognize it, even though you are using modern techniques, just like 12 tone, right?
Exactly. And I try where possible to make sure my music is playable on a 2-manual instrument to make it more accessible. It's always nice when you've got a bigger organ, of course, but just to make it more accessible. And I was lucky in Hamilton because even with 18 ranks, it was amazing what you could play on it. The voicing, the tenor voicing was so good. It was quite well balanced. It was quite incredible what you could play on a small organ.
If you find a really nice principle, you can play for hours just using one principle.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Yes, I agree. Yes. Yeah. And
what other techniques do you have that you use in your compositions, besides 12 tone series?
I'm not at all. I use write a lot of modal music. I'm very much influenced by plainsong, by the language of the church. For example, I got a commission from St Mary's Cathedral in Australia, in Sydney, Australia, to write music for. And this was an interesting commission because it was something I'd never thought of, but they wanted a Missa Brevis for baritone voices, unison baritone voices, which is something I've never been doing with organ and modal. And at first I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. And then I said to myself, that's precisely why I should do it. I wrote them music and they perform it all the time. It was great. And I'm very pleased to have done it. So I'm very, modal, 12 tone. When I use 12 tone, I'm flexible. As you say, it might just be a handful of notes. It doesn't have to be the whole 12 notes, but it's the flavor of it, I guess, or the spirit.
When you say modal music, what kind of modes do you use?
I'm a great fan of the mode that has the semitone between the fourth and the fifth notes of the scale. Is it the Lydian mode?
Yes. Lydian, yes. It's a fantastic old mode. And it's a joyful character because if you take a major mode, like C major, and you add a raised fourth scale degree, that's exactly what this mode is. C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and C. And since you have one raised, scale degree, it is a little bit more joyful than natural major.
Absolutely.
The more scale degrees you raise, the more joyful it is, right?
Exactly.
And vice versa. If you flatten the scale degrees, it becomes sorrowful, like Phrygian.
Yes, yes. I find the tonal scales, the major scales, quite bland. That can be to use those scales. And I mean, look what Bach could do with E flat major. I mean, wow, you know. But then that's Bach. But yeah, so modal scales and polyphony, I guess, are my two guiding principles.
Yeah. Wonderful. So you are basically continuing the old tradition in a new way, right?
I hope so. I hope so. And I'm not. I mean, I write the music I want to write, and I have that luxury, I guess. And it works. It works because people are playing it, and that makes me happy. You know, that makes me happy to know that it's out there and being played.
Do you ever worry about originality, about being original, about creating something that has never been created before?
I used to, and but I think, I mean, every piece of music we play has its origins from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we talk about Bach the borrower. You know, we talk about the way that Bach borrows other people's music. I mean, I've done a wonderful arrangement of Bach's music, for example, where, you know, his The Joy of Man's Desiring. I've put through it American folk, and it works a treat. And so you've got Bach's lovely melody, this chorale, which, I mean, he arranged the chorale himself. I've added another layer of melody, which I think Bach himself would approve of. You know, original? I don't know. But what is originality? I guess that's for music historians in the future to judge. You know, I'm happy to put my music out there and have it played and let people decide, you know, where the originality is.
You know, Nigel, you just mentioned very legitimate practice, what Bach also did back in the day, to add extra melody, right, to an existing piece of music. So he would also do that when he would play duets. He would add a trio voice, and if he played trio, he would have a quartet too. His students described his technique, and it was very famous for his achievement. But so if you take a cantata piece like Jesus, Joy of Man's Desiring, right? It's a complete setting for many voices, maybe 6 voices total, and you add an extra layer of melody. Why not? It's like a descant. It's beautiful. You just elaborated Bach.
Yeah, yeah, and that's I guess that comes under the guise of a musical arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me, what's the difference between arranging music and composing music? You know, there's a line there, isn't there, that we, yeah.
So Nigel, of course, at first we all worry about being original, creating something that will last forever, right? Hopefully. But later when we mature, it's not that important, right? We just try to create something which we do our best to express our ideas, right?
Exactly.
And maybe even combine ideas. Ideas. You said polyphony and modal music, or polyphony and 12-tone music. These are two totally maybe unrelated concepts, and if you combine them in one piece, it's already original.
Yeah,
that's one path to be original, to take two concepts, not original concepts, but combine them in new ways, new and surprising ways.
Yeah. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
So I'm very curious to know more about you, and I hope our listeners will want to find out how your music sounds, right, too, after this conversation. So Nigel, before we end, could you direct our listeners to a place online where they could find out more about you and your work?
I think the best place for your listeners to see my music would be Sheet Music Plus, a website, a well-known website in America. And if they put my name in the search, organ music, they'll find 50 or 60 pieces of music, but there are a dozen or so organ pieces there, which they'll be able to see and access.
I see. Do you have a website too?
I do have a website, yes.
Can you mention it here?
I can. I can't obviously do it on the computer at the moment. I haven't got those sort of skills, but it's Nigel Williams composernz.com. www.nigelwilliamscomposernz.com.
Wonderful. I will make sure to include this link into the description of the podcast so that our listeners can click and visit you directly. Wonderful. Do you have, let's say, YouTube channel too?
I don't have a YouTube channel. I haven't quite got that far down the track yet, Vidas, but if your listeners want to contact me, they can contact me from my website, and I can certainly.
And of course, you do have LinkedIn channel, right?
Yes, and I've joined the Facebook Organists. There's a Facebook Organist group that I've just joined, and I've just put a photo up of the organ in Hamilton, the Laternal that I was talking about. Up there. I've just joined a few days ago, so I'm coming into the 21st century fast.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nigel, for this conversation. I was delighted to know more about your techniques, about your passions, about 12th tone, about modal music, and of course, your great love for the polyphony. I hope you will continue creating and sharing your music for a long time to come, and that our listeners will also, get in touch with you, say hello to you, and encourage you to create even further.
Well, thank you very much for this conversation, and I certainly would be very happy to have inquiries from your listeners and to carry on my work in writing music for this wonderful instrument.
All right, thank you so much, and let's keep in touch about your new creations, new compositions.
Thank you. I will do that.
If you liked this conversation, I encourage you to visit my blog Secrets of Organ Playing at organduo.lt, where you will find lots of insights, practical advice, and training for every area of organ playing. You can subscribe to this blog for free to get your daily dose of inspiration and to be the first to know when any of my future podcasts roll out. I hope to help you reach your dreams in organ playing. I'm Vidas Plinkevicius. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you online really soon.